This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. This isn't exactly what we're doing right now, but just want to point out they've got some great true wireless earbuds now for gaming on the go. We will be doing a review on these very soon. Not what we're doing, though. Let's instead talk about some of what we missed last week and what that has done to fears about the industry going forward, and some historical information as well. So, last week, we got more information about the Switch 2 coming from Nintendo. Lots of information. The things that stood out the most to most gamers were not the games, but instead the prices. The cost of the Switch 2 is significantly higher than the cost of the Switch OG and the Switch OLED. The price has gone up quite a bit, and it doesn't have the OLED screen, which is a surprise. They also haven't fixed the thumbsticks. They haven't done the Hall effects controls, so the likelihood of stick drift is still there. So the price increase is concerning gamers a bit, but on top of the console, we're also looking at price increases on the games. Now, we haven't seen any real price changes on AAA titles in a very long time. You might remember, as the current generation that we're in now, which I think is the 9th gen of the consoles, was coming, there was a lot of talk about that we were going to see games go from 60 to 70 in the new generation. And in the first couple days, it seemed like maybe that was going to happen, and then really it didn't. $59.99 does seem to be the standard price still for AAA titles. However, Nintendo has prices for their first-party primary titles for the launch of this thing, and we're looking at an $80 price tag for Mario Kart World. So that is a $20 increase over the AAA multi-platform titles that we've known now for several generations. Interestingly, it is not the only price. Nintendo hasn't just moved all their prices up and we're going with 80 for the, primary titles, because Donkey Kong Bonanza is currently listed at $70. Both of which, however, are more than the standard AAA title release. So, what does all this mean? All of these numbers came about before any talk, any serious talk or understanding of what possible fallout would be from the tariff stuff, which we still don't know what the fallout's going to be on that. So we're going to put that aside. These prices were determined before all of that. So does this mean that we're about to start seeing an increase in standard game prices? I suspect so. Partially because it's been several generations of console since we've actually seen the $49 to $59 price increase. I think that came with the Xbox 360, so the 7th gen. So we've done 2 generations without a price increase, despite inflation, the size of games getting bigger, the scope of games. the development scale going up. So my suspicion is we're going to see more stuff in this range. Now, do I think everything's going to be in this range? No. I think there's going to be a lot of indie stuff. I think we're going to see some games scale back their development cycles and their scale to try and keep prices lower. I think we're actually going to start seeing tiers of game and game style. But that's my current suspicion, Abram. What do you think?
I think you're right. I mean, they. What I'm kind of curious about is how much. I'm trying to remember now. You are an experienced Atari collector. Um, how much? I'm trying to remember. I hate to tell folks that I actually was alive and bought Atari cartridges when they were new. Um, how how much were they in 2025 dollars? Because I seem to remember them being $20 or $30 for a game in the 80s.
Yeah.
And if you were to take that and translate it into today's dollars, that sounds like more than $60.
Yeah, indeed. And so that's been the thing that's been so interesting, right? So there's actually a bit of an inverse bell curve that has happened in the price of games and consoles. Somebody put together a graphic I saw um, sometime early this week that compared all the Nintendo uh, consoles at their release price and their today release price, and it was this inverse bell curve. The price actually went down for several generations and has now leveled pretty much leveled back out with uh, where they started the NES and the SNES. I think actually the SNES was the most expensive. Yeah, the most expensive console in value, and
Well,
and
let's
this one, but this one's up there. But there was this dip that we got the pleasure of living through. Right, the the Switch came out at $299, which was not what any of us were expecting. Right, so I think this console has put itself back kind of where consoles theoretically are supposed to be. Some of this came. I- I'm gonna name check you, buddy. I know we've known each other a long time. Hip Hop Gamer, uh, when the Xbox One came out during E3, he made this big deal in the room of the price because it came with the Kinect. Ironically, uh, congratulations, Nintendo, you've brought back the Kinect. Doesn't matter. Anyway, um, he made a big deal, and that was why Sony changed their pricing structure that afternoon for the PS4. And that changed like the whole last generation pricing structure. And then that affected this generation pricing structure of consoles as well. And almost entirely, it was Hip Hop Gamer in the room at E3 that had that strange, bizarre impact. I'm watching the press conference because I wasn't there, and I heard his voice specifically. So we did have this dip where we had a $299 Switch. Um, what 349 to 369 for the OLED, like just bizarre. Um, we had the pleasure of living through that, but I think that bubble is over. I think we're past the effects of that particular Microsoft screw up and call out live, and I think the actual consoles are leveling out now. But if you look at the price of the games, they had the same, very similar uh, inverse bell curve where they went down for a while and they've come back up. So I think
well,
legitimately the price is leveling out. I think it is returning to about what it costs to produce a game.
so if you think about it, we've seen this with all electronics, not just consoles.
Mm-hmm.
The like today, you can buy well. without tariffs, you could buy a legit, really good laptop for under $1,000,
Yeah.
right? You could buy a competent one sometimes for $700.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy a flat panel monitor for $100, or you could buy a really decent gaming one for 200 or 250,
Yeah.
right?
The
Um,
two that we use here in the studio that we bought during Collision, we got for $89 a piece.
so if you go back to the beginning of the PC era, or even the beginning of flat panel monitors, the prices were way higher, even in absolute dollars. So, like
Mm-hmm.
the IBM PC 5150, the first PC, and I think this is without the monitor or without storage, was $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then, I think once you kitted it out with a monitor, with the monochrome monitor and a tape drive or something, you were probably looking at like $3,000. So I remember my first PC was like around $2,000 with the monitor, and I remember monitors themselves being like, you want a 15-inch monitor, that's $500. You, um, so uh, TV sets also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you think about it, the cost of electronics has, in like dollars, is actually extremely low compared to what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go back into what a laptop cost in the 90s,
Yeah.
um, or even early 2000s, and it's not the like it's not even like adjusted for the time. Like, the price has gone down a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
right? A
Sure. We've
lot.
got
So,
we've got mass production, we've got miniaturization, we've got offshoring that has all helped in that pricing. However, it doesn't account for all of it. There was
right,
I I know during my Radio Shack days, the last thing we wanted to do at the store was to sell a laptop because we lost money on it.
right, right. So,
What the business model
so
was on that, I don't know. I think they were hoping to sell a case with it or something to try and make
yes,
any money, but my like, crazy, crazy idea.
right, yeah. I mean, so there's been a lot of uh, downward price pressure. Now, with the release, with the uncertainty of the tariffs, with the release of the 5000 series 5090, 5080 cards, we're seeing some very, very high prices for
Mm-hmm.
gaming laptops right now, um, and gaming desktops right now. But if you cut off like the last month or so, um, the cost of computing is significantly less than it used to be. So it's not just games that haven't
Mm-hmm.
followed inflation.
Yeah,
It's all electronics that haven't followed inflation. The cost of electronics has gone down.
true.
Uh,
And technology has that ability. Whatever technology means at the time, right now it's electronics. But, you know, even swordsmithing.
Not true for your
Uh,
car, though.
true,
Not true for cars.
because generally cars kind of have fallen out of the category of technology and have more fallen into commodity. And at commodity, they get prices can get weird.
Because, like, relative to like what a car cost in the 90s, I think
Yeah.
even if you leveled out the dollar, like if you evened out the inflated for adjusted for inflation, cars are much more expensive.
Yeah.
So the cost of a car has gotten much more. The cost of a house of a home has gotten much more
Hmm.
uh, relative to inflation, but the cost of electronics
Continues to
has
drop.
gone significantly down.
And and then interestingly, there's the other side of it because the iPhone launched at $199 and now it's $10.99. You know, there's there are some things, there are some companies that I think know that they can treat things differently. But and I mean something, a TV from Sony isn't comically inexpensive, but TCL, Hisense, uh, you know, those brands are all competing over price. So there is this thing of competing on price, and then some companies competing on quality or the perceived quality of their brand 20 years ago. Sony, uh, you know, there's
Right.
um, so some stuff is continuing to get more expensive, like the iPhone, while other stuff, TCL TVs, for example, keep coming down. And then we talked about it. I've got that TV in my living room that I didn't pay for, and not because it was sent as a review unit, but that's the actual business model. So the electronic world is very strange, and I think that has affected gaming. But I also think that the reality is that gaming is different than designing and manufacturing a TCL TV. One, there's no slave labor for manufacturing, but it's it's a creative field, it's an entertainment field, it's a lot of people that all have unique hands on it. You know, a TCL TV is a panel that they probably source from somebody. Actually, I think TCL does their own panels. They're a bad example. Hisense, they get a panel from somebody, they build a body around it, they put a little computer on it, they have a Roku version and a Google TV version, and they put it out into the wild. Versus like, Diablo, which takes a team of
Yeah.
hundreds, years to produce, and test and make sure it's ready to go out. It's 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 different. The cost, I think, is way higher on it, and so I'm not surprised that it is breaking out of that mold of
Yeah.
constantly dropping.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
not.
I
I'm
think
not
it's more in
surprised.
line. I think it's more in line with movies, which you and I have talked about a lot over the last couple years. The price of tickets going up and up and up and up and up, because Hollywood productions are expensive. Well, according to Rob Lowe, nothing's filming in Hollywood anymore. But Hollywood style
I
productions.
mean, it is. I mean, listen. I went to see the Minecraft movie this weekend in the theater, of course,
Uh-huh.
for a family of four. Our ticket price was $84. So, and we did not see it in 3D or any of the or the like extra luxury theater
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Like
You just went to a theater.
that's what it. Yeah, we just went to the Regal Theater around here. That's what it costs to that's what it costs to buy tickets, and one of those was a child ticket too. Um,
Oof.
so yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a family of four to see a movie for an hour and a half is 80 something dollars. To buy a game that you probably get more than an hour and a half worth of entertainment out of, uh,
Mar-
it seems like the game is actually a better deal.
Mario Kart World is going to get you a lot more than an hour and a half of entertainment per person for the same $80.
Yes.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's an interesting comparison.
right. So it actually is really, it actually is
A good
like
deal.
obviously the video game is a good deal by
Yeah.
comparison, right?
And, this is going to start, this is going to bring us into conversations probably over the next couple of months about, you know, the possibly increasing value and or increasing price of things like uh, Game Pass or PS Plus, things like that. Because we don't know if this will affect that. We know there's you know new stuff coming to Game Pass with the Activision acquisition, which is a fun pair of words to say. So that price might go up, but even then, you know, it's still less than a game a month. And as the cost of a game goes up, that value might get better. So there's going to be conversations in this realm on subscription services for gaming. So I think we're in a bit of a transition period for the gaming industry. I think Nintendo was the first ones to not feel afraid to kick through the door, but I suspect now that the hole is in the door, we're gonna see
Yeah,
other
it's
publishers go through it.
yeah, I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. But it actually does when you're talking about Game Pass, it does kind of remind me of what the same decision process that you have with a movie, right? Like you want to see the movie right away, you go to the movie theater and you pay a premium for that. But if you're willing to wait until it comes on streaming,
Hmm.
then actually it's significantly cheaper, right? So
True.
isn't this sort of a similar thing with games?
So similar, except that all Microsoft first party titles are on Game Pass day one.
Ah,
But that's Microsoft first party. that's not that's not third party stuff. So, you know, or even technically second party. I think Microsoft has ended up creating the concept of a second party. It's studios that they own that aren't Microsoft branded. I would kind of argue that Activision and ZeniMax, ZeniMax might be second party, but that's a whole different thing. Um, but all first party titles are on Game Pass day one. But yeah, if you're looking for something from EA, it may not be on their day one. But if you have EA Play, it might be, right? So, and that will lead us into our conversation a little later about the video streaming services and the cost of those and how many you can subscribe to. Same thing here. I think the gaming industry is about to undergo a shift, and I think Nintendo has opened that door. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.